So today we're cracking open a really curious text, the Alchemist's Handbook. It's a manual that claims it can teach you practical, honest-to-goodness laboratory alchemy. Let's see what secrets it's hiding. Right away, in the foreword, we get this quote from a 14th century alchemist, and it tells you everything you need to know about the tone here. This isn't just about mixing potions. It's framing alchemy as something huge, something profound, the art of art, the science of sciences. You can already tell this is going to be deep.
Now, when most people hear alchemy, they immediately think of one thing: turning lead into gold. But this handbook, it pretty much throws that idea out the window on page 1. The goal here is something way more abstract: the raising of vibrations. So what in the world does that actually mean?
To really get what raising vibrations is all about, we've got to start with the book's fundamental theory. Everything is built on what it calls the 3 secret principles.
So here's the book's core definition. It says alchemy is the art of helping nature bring its own creations to perfection. You know, this isn't about conjuring something out of thin air. It's about taking what already exists and purifying it, elevating it, basically hitting fast forward on a natural process.
First up, we have Mercury. And listen, you have to forget everything you know about the liquid metal in thermometers. In alchemy, Mercury, with a capital M, is this idea of a universal life force. It's the essence, the spirit, that supposedly flows through and animates everything.
Then there's sulfur. And again, we're not talking about the yellow rock. Alchemical sulfur is described as the unique spirit of a thing. If Mercury is the universal life force, sulfur is what gives a plant or a rock its own individual character, its own specific soul, if you will.
And the third principle is salt. This is the physical body. It's what's left over after you've burned a substance down to its core ashes, after all the life, the mercury, and the sulfur has been driven out. It's the pure, stable, material foundation.
And the book really wants you to get this straight. These are symbolic terms. They are philosophical ideas. They are not the common chemicals we know from the lab. The book basically says that confusing the two is the very first and biggest mistake any aspiring alchemist can make.
All right, enough theory, right? I mean, this is supposed to be a practical handbook. So let's get our hands dirty, metaphorically speaking, and look at the most concrete process it describes, the lesser circulation, which is all about making a powerful herbal elixir.
You can see how this 4-step process is basically the 3 principles in action, right? First, you use alcohol to extract the liquid parts. That's your mercury and sulfur. Then, you take the leftover plant matter and burn it, purify it, and perfect it to get your salt. And finally, you bring them back together. You create a new elevated whole. It's the entire philosophy in one little procedure.
And this isn't just some vague, mystical recipe. No, the book gets super specific. It lays out real, documented lab work. It even gives you diagrams for the equipment you need, like this sock slit extractor for that first step. It really pulls this whole esoteric idea right down to earth, into a real, functioning lab.
So why go through all this effort? Well, the claim is pretty wild. The handbook says that an elixir prepared this way is just exponentially more powerful than the raw herb it came from. It even quotes the famous alchemist Paracelsus, who suggested that a single drop could have the same effect as over 100 times its weight in the original plant.
So we've seen the how, we've seen the nuts and bolts of the process, but now the book pivots to the much deeper question of why. What is the cosmic worldview that makes all this lab work actually meaningful?
I mean, it really makes you wonder, right? Why go through this whole complicated song and dance just to make an herbal remedy? Is there something bigger going on here than just making a stronger medicine? And the answer, the key to the whole philosophy, is this ancient principle from Hermetic texts: as above, so below. As below, so above. The idea here is that whatever happens on a small scale, like in that little flask in your lab, perfectly mirrors the grand, sweeping processes of the cosmos itself. And you can see this idea in action with these tables of correspondence you find in the book. They link everything together. So the sun, which rules the heart, is connected to the herb chamomile. Mars, which rules the gallbladder, is connected to basil. The alchemist doesn't just think they're working with a plant. They believe they're tapping into a very specific cosmic energy. Okay, so from here, the book really zooms out. We're moving beyond the lesser work with plants, and we're stepping into the big leagues, the great work. And this is where we start talking about the true philosopher's stone.
So think of the work with plants, the lesser work, as a training ground. It's like level 1, where you learn the rules of purification. The great work takes those exact same principles and applies them to the mineral kingdom. But there's a huge twist. The final subject isn't just a mineral, it's the alchemists themselves.
So wait a minute. If the ultimate goal is transforming yourself, then does that mean the famous Philosopher's Stone isn't actually a stone at all?
And this is it. This is the Handbook's ultimate secret. The real Philosopher's Stone isn't some magical rock that you find, it's the result. It's the end product of the great work. The stone is the alchemist, who has become perfected, purified, and spiritually transformed. It's not something you find, it's something you become.
The author leaves us with this really powerful idea. All that practical work in the lab, it's a discipline. It's a way to prepare yourself. The quote basically says that if you can master the physical process with herbs, you're making yourself ready to achieve the true goal, the grand arcanum, which is an internal transformation.
And this kind of brings us full circle, but it leaves us with this final, really mind-bending question. After all the talk of flasks and furnaces and powders, is it possible that the real laboratory isn't made of glass and fire at all, but of the self?